You're listening to Real Talk Texas with local expert Steve Hakes. Now, here's Steve.
Welcome back. You're listening to Real Talk Texas, and today we're talking about urban living in Dallas. And we've got the honor of having Clay Stapp and Company here in the studio today. And he's doing a great job just kind of filling us in on why people live in the urban lifestyle. It's very different than suburban, and that's where his firm is focused. They're really focused on a certain targeted segment of the marketplace, which I think is smart because a lot of realtors will just kind of use the shotgun approach and just try to get anything they can. And I think that you're having a great success because you are focused in on urban, and you're focused in on a demographic of in the mid-20s, the mid-40s, people that are looking for a lifestyle and looking in the urban areas of Dallas. And, we've talked about, the availability of inventory, how that's tightened up, and we've heard this from other people too, Clay, on the show that have said, hey, it's real quickly shifted from a buyer's market to a seller's market. And I bet that's a little bit difficult when you have buyers coming in. They've got this mindset because for the last 5 years, it's been a buyer's market.
Sure.
I mean, it really has been a stagnant market out there. The values have dropped somewhat here. We're lucky in Texas. It is not like California, Florida, Arizona, where there were drastic reductions in values. I mean, I think the largest dip we've seen, it depends on pockets in the market, it's been maybe 15% since 2005 levels. But so we're pretty blessed when it comes to that as far as our marketplace. But let's talk about inventory that's out there. And we started talking before the break about if you're getting ready to sell and things like that. But I got to think that you as a real estate professional, that there's some magic to if you're getting ready to sell your house. I mean, I think a lot of people make the mistake of listing their house with their cousin's aunt's friend or something like that just because they don't know a real estate agent that they trust. If I'm getting ready to sell my home and I don't know an agent, what's some of the magic, what's some of the advice you can give other than, obviously call your firm.
Right.
But what are some of the things you tell people when they call you?
Well, I think one thing that's super important is, it comes down to presentation. Your home has got to show amazing. So, going through your house, decluttering is probably one of the biggest things I see. Making sure it's clean, making sure it appeals to as many of the senses as you possibly can. When people walk in the home, it's got to smell good. It's got to look good. We really are selling kind of a dream here of, hey, this is what your life's going to be like if you buy this house. So on the listing side, you really got to think about that and have an agent who's going to, if it's your cousin or your mom's brother or something like that, a lot of times they may not tell you the hard facts and what you really need to know. So presentation super, super important. My wife, Lisa, she does a lot of our staging. She has a staging business. So sometimes, some of our clients' tastes aren't maybe what most people would like. So, bringing in, repurposing furniture, bringing in new furniture makes a big difference when it comes time to sell.
I think I've seen that on some of the HGTV shows where they'll come in and they actually get one of those pods or whatever, and they take everybody's furniture out of your house, and they come in and they stage it. And I always wondered how in the heck's that happened, because I know we lived in our house way too long in Colleyville, and our stuff was what we bought when we moved in, and I think that was like 97 or something like that. So we had a lot of the old, ball and claw furniture, is very upscale and things like that. And I know that's not what I would do today if I were getting ready to buy a house. I mean, I'd probably go with a more modern look and all that stuff. So you can actually do that here in Dallas?
Yeah, we can definitely do that, and we probably 6 to 10 homes over the last year that have been listed with other agents, didn't sell, sat on the market for a long time, come in, repurpose, stage it, make it look better, and have it under contract in 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
It makes a big difference. And the second part is, you asked for a couple things, but, great pictures. Having an agent or a representative that spends the money to get a professional photographer in there with good cameras, good lenses, and is able to make the place look as good good as possible makes a huge difference when it comes time to sell. So many people are out there looking online, looking at pictures before even stepping in the house. So those pictures really gotta pop.
I read in an article recently about people that were looking for homes that almost 90% of the people that are shopping for homes, their first step is that they go online. And that's why one of the reasons these virtual tour things, and that really drives it up too. Do you do that piece as well?
Yeah, we definitely do. Our online presence is super, super important, and it wouldn't surprise me if the figures were even higher of the number of people that go online at some point during their purchase process.
That's great. So if you're listening out there and you're thinking about selling your home, make sure that you text us at the show today at 817-925-2546. Just send me a text that says sell, and we'll put you in touch with Clay and his group there so they could help. Let's flip the side of the table here, and let's talk about I'm getting ready to buy. And one of the things as a mortgage professional we get calls all the time from our agents. They'll say, hey, I've got, this guy, Bill Schwab, and he's getting ready to buy a house. I need you to pre-qualify him. And we were talking about people going online. And a lot of times people go online to a website and they'll say, the real estate agent says, before I spend my time with you, I'm going to make sure, because lending guidelines have really tightened up over the last 5 years, and they continue to tighten. So sometimes people go online and they'll just fill out how's my credit? Well, I think it's great. And they'll go through and they'll print out an automated, pre-qualification letter from a website that says, they're pre-approved to buy a house at this level. I think most savvy agents will look at that and say, no, I really want you to talk to my mortgage guy, and I want to make sure that this is not just a web-generated thing, because it's, you got your time's valuable. And for someone that's, like you said earlier, you're going to sit down, you're going to spend time interviewing these people. You're going to make sure that you're finding the right place for them, and you're maximizing or minimizing the time they spend that they have to look, because you're going to really target in. So you're spending a lot of your time, and time is money. Yep. And so I think, one of the things that we do is at Affiliated Bank, when you call our office, we will offer up the pre-qualification letter, but we're going to pull credit. We're going to make sure that we look at that. We're going to run an automated approval, which is basically we send your credit profile out to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or FHA, or, one of the automated underwriting systems, and it'll come back and it'll tell us, okay, yeah, you're eligible. And that's before we actually get all the documentation. So that's the one where I get the call on a Saturday and says, hey, I'm going to take this guy out. Can you give me a quick pre-qual? It's better than a website thing, but it's not a full approval. One of the things I like to do, and I want to get your opinion on this, Clay, as well, I try to then set up a meeting with the client and gather all the information that we're going to need to truly credit approve this customer. And there's a reason that I do that. One of the reasons I do that is I want to make sure that we take them to our underwriting. Our underwriters approve them at a certain dollar figure for a loan. We've verified their assets. We've verified their income. We've taken them what we call a true credit approval. All we're waiting on now is the property, the appraisal, and the title. And what I call that is turning them into a cash buyer. And I think their negotiations work to their advantage, because if you can walk in and say, I can close in 2 weeks, I think you might have a better shot at getting the contract at the price you're asking for, or maybe even get a better deal. Have you worked with people like that, Clay? I mean, what's your opinion of those two different scenarios?
For sure. Well, you definitely know you're working with a really good realtor when they require you to get a pre-approval letter from a lender before taking out to look at properties. So I think that's absolutely key. Knowledge is power, and knowing what you can afford and what you can't afford, it really does narrow down the buying process and the number of properties that you're going to look at. So we require all of our buyers to talk to someone like yourself, get that pre-approval letter before we even step in the door. And a lot of times listing agents won't even allow their homes to be shown unless they know that buyer has a pre-approval letter.
Well, and if you're listening out there, don't be afraid of this pre-approval thing. It's just a matter, what it is getting kind of the hard work out of the way up front. It's really not as difficult as we sound. There's just a checklist which your lending professional will give you. It's usually just some documentation of what your financial picture looking like, and they're trying to do the best thing they can for you to make sure that you understand what's the best financial moves too. It also gets that kind of that guidance out of the way up front too, as to what kind of home should you be looking at, and I think it helps you as the agent as well.
Yeah, it's a conversation between you and the buyer. I mean, it's as simple as that, and you're also able to give them some ideas on rates and terms and other things that are important for them to think about, before buying a home.
And if you text our show right now, we'll be able to give you that free pre-qualification, and we'll get you set up to do the pre-approval to turn you into a cash buyer for Clay and his group. Go ahead and text the show at 817-925-2546. That's 817-925-2546. And we're coming near the end of the segment, and we really appreciate Clay coming in. I got to tell you, if people were not really familiar with the urban area, I think you really need to get an expert, someone that really understands the marketplace. And it's pretty obvious to me and to our team here that, Clay Stapp and Company is that expert team for Uptown, Downtown, M Streets, all the different areas that you talked about today, the urban living in Dallas. So if you're considering it, or if you live there and you want to make a move to another area, you really need to reach out to our show at realtalktexas.com. You can send us a note there. You can also go directly to Clay's website. It's Clay Stapp. That's STAPP.com. And I feel really confident that you'll find a real expert, and Clay will put himself or one of his team members on your case. Really sit down, spend the time they need to give you good, solid advice. So thanks for listening to Real Talk Texas. Tune in next week where we have another real expert on the show. Clay, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.